WWRQ Valdosta. Online at myrock108.com.
I'm a naughty little schoolgirl.
You look a little old to be a schoolgirl.
The station that rocks Valdosta. We are Rock 108. Blazer football talk. It's the David Dean Coaches Show on Rock 108.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the David Dean Coaches Show, live from the Holiday Inn and Conference Center here in Valdosta, Georgia. Thanks to our presenting sponsor, Southeastern Federal Credit Union. Also thanks to Girard & Jewelers, Budweiser, KFC, Smitty's, Valdosta Insurance Services, Blanton & Griffin Insurance, and Valdosta Lighting. Now let's go to David Schmidt and head coach David Dean.
All right, Coach, a long road trip to start the season, a very tough battle with a very good team from a very strong conference. You guys put in a really good effort. Unfortunately, came on the losing end of a 28-24 game. I know there's other ways you'd rather spend your Labor Day holiday, but putting in extra work and getting them ready for the next home game is really important. But, tell us as much as you can, what it feels like, unfortunately, to be here with this situation.
Well, the tough part is this is basically for Blazer football the fourth straight game that this has happened, that the last drive of the game you end up losing the football game. And it's funny, I was talking to the head coach for Saginaw Valley before the game, and of course they had those three films, and he said it's just incredible how you lost those three games. He said that I know that was a stinger for you, and lo and behold, it ends up happening again. But, I will give Saginaw a tremendous amount of credit. They're a really good football team. Their crowd was very loud. They were in the game, and they knew when to cheer, and you could tell that they were very, very versed and very into the game. Their whole stands were packed. In the end zone was their students section in there with their band, and it was packed. There was not an empty seat anywhere where the Saginaw people were sitting, and I thought they did a tremendous job, and they ended up being a little bit of difference in the game. When you go on the road and play in that type of hostile environment, especially when you play with a lot of guys that are playing for the first time, it got a little bit intimidating. But that's no excuse. We had an opportunity to win the ball game, and you just keep playing in your mind. We had a 3rd down and 10, and we run a quarterback draw that opens up exactly the way you do it. And the quarterback he falls right before the 1st down marker instead of falling an extra yard. And he just lost track of where he was on the field. And I thought he had the 1st down, and he ends up falling up short. And if he falls across that line and gets the 1st down, the game's over, because they used their 3 timeouts and we run it out. And then, I'll give our kids credit. We had a great kickoff return after they scored. We completed a pass, got down to the 35-yard line. Did take a sack on the next snap, threw a couple of incompletes, and then the last play of the game, we throw the ball into the end zone, and our wide receiver has it and goes right through his hands. So our kids put themselves back in a position to win that game. It just didn't happen. Feel bad for them, but after talking with them yesterday, I think they realized that the goals that we set for the year are all still right there in front of us. The only goal that we can't match right now is an undefeated season, and of all 4 goals that we would set in front of us, that's probably the least of my concerns is obviously going undefeated. We want to get a little bit better and make the playoffs, win the conference, and get into to a national championship game.
Well, the ultimate silver lining, if you want to look at it that way, is we're on the exact same pace we were in 2004 when we won the first national championship, and that was a first-game loss to Albany State. So.
Yeah, I mean, that's true, and a lot of people have said that to me, and the only thing I tell them is That's true. We lost it the same way. Albany kicks a field goal right at the end of the game and beats us, and we got down in position and had an opportunity to continue a drive and dropped a pass just like we did the other night. The difference between the 2004 and the 2012 team, or 2012 seasons, is the schedule. You know, our schedule is much tougher than the 2004. If you go back and look at the 2004 year, Albany State was a really good team. We really didn't face another good team until Delta.
Right.
And that was a huge battle but for us because at that time West Georgia was down, North Alabama was down, Harding was not very good, Ouachita Baptist was not very good. So the conference was not a very good conference, and we were able to go through and win all of those games. And, now it's totally different. You look at the rankings now, and, of course, rankings don't mean a whole bunch, but everybody that's on our schedule, with the exception of Shorter, Edward Waters, and one other one, Angelo State, are all in the top 32 in the country right now. So we have a heck of a battle in front of us. We got a tough schedule to go through, and we're playing a very good football team who this past week beat Delta State, and that in itself says a lot. They were down 23-9, I believe, in the fourth quarter, and scored 22 points in the fourth quarter to beat Delta. So that says a lot for them and how good they are.
Going back to the Saginaw Valley team for a second, too, a lot of people read about the controversy and the turmoil that had happened leading up to their game where they had 4 or 5 guys suspended, 3 of those starters. And that's a situation where, as a head coach, you pretty much have to tip your hat to their head coach because that's a situation where they could either completely fall apart and use that as a lot of excuses for not being able to deliver, or step up and, being able to watch.
Or step up and play, which they did.
Right, let's say it. I mean, they stepped up and they just.
No, they stepped up and played.
Yeah, well, yeah, right. And
no, they played.
They did.
Yeah, they played. Yes.
Yeah. So so again, a situation where they executed and they were able to. What do you think? I mean, if you're looking at four games in a row that you mentioned, I mean, is there anything that? I mean, obviously, if you knew what it was, it could be you'd correct it. But do you think at some point it starts getting psychological, or it starts getting to the point where the guys are kind of saying, well, wait a second, I hope this is not the time that it happens again, and kind of gets apprehensive in the back in the.
I think that's exactly what happened to us in that ball game. We spent so much time in the offseason as coaches and as players talking about not letting that happen again. Let's put ourselves in a position where we can finish off the game, and we don't want to lose that way again. And when that happened with Graham Craig falling a half a yard short, everybody kind of went, oh, my gosh, how bad of luck is that? And then we go, and there was a huge wind behind our back at that time, so we take a 5-yard penalty to get a little bit more room to kick the punt down in there. And all we have to do is hit the punt straight up in the air, and the wind's going to carry it down inside the 20-yard line for a fair catch. But he shanked it, and they end up starting outside of the 20-yard line. So those two things back to back kind of started to play into our mind, and then I think after the first third down conversion that they had, our kids kind of looked around and went, oh, my gosh, this is starting to happen again. And you could kind of feel everybody going into that mode. And, I think that had a lot to do with it. But the one thing we got to do is we got to get past that. We got to learn. And I think the only way that we're going to be able to do it is to actually win a ball game that way. Make a stop or make a first down and run the clock out, or make a stop and not let the other team score.
And that's another case, too, where you can't really overcoach that either, right? Because, you don't want to start making different changes or being too aggressive another way, and then you get beaten different ways.
Sure. Yeah, you have to do what you do best. And, the one thing that we did was we went after the quarterback that one time, and we had a free shot to get him. And he was preseason All-American for a reason. He did a great job of just kind of giving a little bit of ground and throwing the ball off his back foot right there before the half to throw the touchdown to tie the game. And in that last drive, he did a great job of stepping up And on that last play of the game, he stepped up. Our linebackers came up, and he was able to throw the ball over the middle and complete it to a guy that walks into the end zone. And, you know, that's a good thing about having a veteran quarterback that's been with a lot of guys before. He did an excellent job of managing the game down the stretch and, give him a lot of credit and his receivers. He was only throwing the ball to 2 guys the whole night, except for the back when he got in trouble and dumped the ball off or throwing to him in a screen pass. And, we knew where he was going, but they just kept completing them, and we just couldn't stop them.
And that's what, the next question was, it seems like on first and second down, you guys get him in a decent situation. It might be, 3rd and 3, but there's a couple times it was longer than that. But it just seems like it's that third down. Then unfortunately that one, the fourth down, again, he hit Janis, who was the big target, needed 9 and looked like 9.5.
Yeah.
And it was a good throw too. You can't knock. It was not a case of where it was a breakdown or anything. He stepped up and put it in a small window and executed.
Well, he did that a lot. There's only certain places that you can put the ball on some throws, and that's exactly what he did. He put it right where it was just barely out of the reach of our guys or right as they're closing in, and he put the right amount of zip on it. So, I give him a tremendous amount of credit. He played a great football game. He managed the game very well. They really kind of fooled us because they had been showing a tight end, 2 tight end set all the time. That's what that league does. And then they came out and they go pretty much like us, and they go 4 wide. Mm-hmm. And they were pretty much a pound it type team, and they came out and they started throwing the ball on us. And, we shut their run down. They did not do very well on the run, but we weren't ready for their passing game, and that's where they ended up hurting us because I think they threw the ball 56 times in the game. And, he was just he was on fire that night. Yeah,
37 completions out of 56 attempts. That was, 6.8 yards per attempt. So that includes the incompletions and everything, so that's a pretty good mark. Now, the Jeff Janis guy was obviously a very big guy. How big was Albrecht? He looked like he made Wes Welker look like a giant.
Which one?
He was the one that caught the game winner. He was a little slot receiver.
Yeah, he's about Griffin Riley's size. Yeah. He's not a very tall guy. He's probably 5'10" or so, extremely quick. The other kid, the 82, I believe, was his number.
Janis, yeah.
He was a 6'1", 6'2", taller, lankier type kid. But they both had outstanding hands and ran very good routes.
I say that Albrecht he came off on the slot, and he just, again, it was running crisp routes, and the passes were right there. And, again, not a case of where, there's no defensive plan or a situation where they're not stepping up. It was just great execution.
Yeah, they really did. They executed very well. They had a lot of guys back, and that always helps. And those guys that obviously have been playing a lot of football together and threw the ball to each other very well. And the telling tale on the whole thing was we held the ball in the first quarter, I think, for, I want to say almost 9 minutes, 9 of the 15 minutes of the first quarter. And after that, we only had the ball 18 minutes the rest of the game. And you look at that and say, well, gosh, you didn't do very good offensively. But we averaged almost 6 yards per play. Mm-hmm. We only had 2 series where we went 3 and out. And that was the series right before the end of the half where Matt Pierce intercepted the ball at the 2-yard line, and then the first series of the third quarter. But we did have 2 series where we fumbled on the first snap when Caden fumbled the ball, and then the other one where we had a 2-play touchdown. The rest of them, we had drives. So it wasn't like we weren't executing on offense. We just couldn't get off the field defensively. They were somewhere 11 or 20 or something like that on third down conversions, and that's just way, way too good. And we've got to do a better job of that. And I don't know what they were in the second half. Most of those 11 conversions were all in the second half.
All right, well, we'll take our first break. When we come back, we'll take a little bit longer look at the game, and then we'll start looking forward to our first home game, which is going to be Saturday night at 7 o'clock at Hyder Bazemore Stadium.
We'll be back with more from the David Dean Coaches Show live from the Holiday Inn and Conference Center, presented by Southeastern Federal Credit Union. Also brought to you by Girardin Jewelers, Budweiser, KFC, Smitty's, Valdosta Insurance Services, Blanton and Griffin Insurance, and Valdosta Lighting on Rock 108.
When practically every bank in town is taking away free checking, Southeastern Federal Credit Union says no. Southeastern Federal Credit Union's no-charge checking gives you no monthly service charge, no per-check charge, no-charge Visa check card, no-charge ATMs from Southeastern no matter where you use the card, no-charge POS transactions, no-charge internet banking, no charges whatsoever.
Getting killed out there, Coach.
Get it together, Kowalski.
Are you eating? New KFC Chicken Littles. Halftime snack.
Give me that. Wow. Now listen up, kid. This is a little game.
Yeah?
So make some little plays, some little hits. Show them you belong in the little time.
Yeah!
Go little, or go home. Yeah!
Little is the new big. New KFC Chicken Littles. Get big taste for a little price. Just $1.29.
Limited time offer. Participating KFC restaurants. Prices may vary. Tax extra.
Your number one Blazer fans. Auto Owners Insurance and Blanton & Griffin Insurance Agency is a winning combination. We'll work with you to insure your home, auto, business, and life to keep everything you value safe, sound, secure. Auto Owners Insurance, the no-problem people. Call Blanton & Griffin Insurance Agency in Valdosta at 229-247-6500. That's 229-247-6500.
Smitty's is pleased to sponsor the Coach David Dean Show and the VSU Blazers. For years now, the Bay Tree Road store has enjoyed a great relationship with VSU students and faculty. Smitty's offers a generous selection of spirits and wines. Also, all of your favorite domestic, imported, and microbrewed brands of beer are stored at their coldest best at Smitty's. For 30 years, Smitty's has been American-owned and family-operated. Smitty's wishes all Blazer coaches, players, and fans a successful football season and encourages all to enjoy it safely and responsibly.
Blazer football talk. It's the David Dean Coaches Show on Rock 108.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the David Dean Coaches Show, live from the Holiday Inn Hotel and Conference Center. Thanks to our presenting sponsor, Southeastern Federal Credit Union. Also thanks to KFC, Budweiser, Girard & Jewelers, Valdosta Lighting, Blanton & Griffin Insurance, and Valdosta Insurance Services. Now let's go back to David Schmidt and head coach David Dean.
Coach, having to talk about a loss like this right off the bat, it's got to be akin to maybe having to perform an autopsy on a loved one or something.
Yeah.
You know, it's just it's like the last thing in the world you want to do, but it's got to be done. And
well, I'd rather lose than do that.
Yeah, well, so, yeah, I don't know that but well, I was thinking maybe someone was more qualified, but that might get your mind off of things.
That's right.
Again, you know, you can sugarcoat it, you can talk about it when all is said and done. A loss is a loss when you move forward. But there were some bright spots in the game. I mean, like you said, there was a lot of good execution. It's not like, you know, the team did not do what they've been preparing for. It's not like they didn't execute what the practice was. You really had to be excited about the running game and what they were able to do, and a fine job going on there by Austin Scott, who just really looked like a durable, strong back that just looks like he's got a lot of yards in him.
No question. They were very good against the run and always had been, and for us to be able to go in and, you know, really for the first play of the game, we broke it for about 30 yards, I think. You know, outstanding run there by Austin Scott. Our offensive line did a great job. I think our wide receivers blocked as good as we've had a blocking game from that aspect, and that's the reason why we did have a lot of good runs. Those guys weren't coming in to make plays, and we were able to get longer runs in there. That was a huge positive for us. I tell you, another one was having 4 turnovers. We had 4 turnovers that we created in that game, 3 interceptions and 1 fumble recovery. And then, you know, we only turned the ball over 1 time, and really the only time we turned it over was when Caden, you know, he hurt his shoulder and he just didn't squeeze the ball well enough, and it popped out of there. And other than that, we had very decent ball security, had no interceptions. And, you know, we had a lot of positives in the game defensively as far as stopping their run. They were good against they were good running the football, and we took that away from them. They obviously went away from it throwing the ball 56 times. And I think we outperformed them special team-wise. I think we did, with the exception of the 2 kickoffs that went out of bounds and then the 1 punt that was that was shanked, our coverage was great. Our returns were very good. You go back and you look at it and you say, how in the world do you lose this? But it just comes down to third down execution. And when you're not executing on third down and continuing drives, that's what hurts you. And when we got into third downs offensively, we weren't very good. We were getting our yardage on first and second down, and on vice versa for them, they were very good on third down.
And it looked like they were bringing a lot of pressure, and they were pretty much selling out on the third downs. I mean, it just looked like they were saying, you know what, try it, but we're going to do everything we can to go after you.
Well, they were blitzing every snap, and I think when they realized that Caden was not running like he normally does, they cranked it up, and they started coming after us. And then when Graham Craig came in, they did the same thing. They stuck with that type game plan.
And now explain that too. Caden went out, and of course, when you're listening to it on the radio or you're watching it on the computer, we don't know everything that's going on. And Graham comes out in the second half and does a really good job and gets them down the field. That alone too. Again, not making excuses, but when you have to make that shift after a lot of practice going into it and changing basically styles as far as your approach offensively, it has to be really hard on everybody.
Well, it is, especially when you go from a lefty to a righty.
Well, and then you got the whole line switch, right?
You forget about that sometimes. But, I thought Graham Craig came in and did an outstanding job. He threw the ball very well. He put us in a position where we could win the game, managed the game very well. He made some excellent throws in the fourth quarter. The last one of the game, he scrambled around and bought some time and allowed our guys to get down the field and made a great throw. And like I said, we had a chance to catch that ball in the end zone, and if we make that catch, it's a victory for us. And it was frustrating to lose your starting quarterback because we put so much into that of him coming back, and I thought Caden was playing a very good football game, but he hurt his shoulder when he scored that touchdown. He leaped over a guy, landed in the end zone, and then when he landed in the end zone, one of their players landed on top of him. And that's when he separated his shoulder at that time. And he didn't tell anybody, and he kept playing. And you look at him, and he was holding his shoulder kind of funny. And one of our read plays that we have, he normally reads that very well. He should have pulled that and run, and he didn't. And I knew something was wrong then, and I called him over, and I said, "Tell me what's wrong." And he said, "Coach, Coach Hoff just looked at me. He said, I separated my shoulder, but I want to play." And he wanted to play, but we just felt like we couldn't take a chance on getting him hit again, making it worse. He's going to go to the doctor tomorrow, and we'll find out kind of where he is. He said he did feel better today. He did not have a lot of range of motion yesterday moving it around. But today he did have a little bit better, felt a little bit better. The one good thing about it was his non-throwing arm. So it was on his right arm.
And again, talking about rushing defense, you had two guys, their two running backs, Hogue and Lark, were really pumped up preseason, everything too, and I think they wanted to go like a fire and ice or pound and ground kind of combination, and to hold both of them to under 3 yards per carry and the whole team to less than 2.5 yards a carry. Again, most of the yards that they gained that were positive was the quarterback being able to scramble, again, which is why he was a preseason All-American. But again, to be able to shut that down that well, again, that's, again, not to make light of a tough situation, but that's got to be a very good building block going into a next game.
It is, to know that we're able to stand up and take a team that lives on the run. Right. That whole league lives on the run. Line up, bring those big offensive linemen and come off and low back and try to knock you off the ball and run the power at you. And to be able to stuff that and take that part of that game away from them, that is something that we can build on down the future. We can't live on that, anymore, and we obviously have to get better on our pass defense. But we also have to get better on our pass rush. We've got to put more pressure on the quarterback and not allow him to step up in the pocket and have time. Some of the quicker throws that he made were excellent throws that he made, but some of the plays that he made we're not staying in our rush lanes, and he's able to step up in the pocket and make throws. And we got decent coverage, but you just can't cover them forever.
And when you're mentioning not staying in your rush lanes, that's a situation usually where a player's kind of being overly aggressive.
Sure.
And they think that they got a different play going on, and they're not really staying and being kind of executing where they need to be at the time.
Exactly. A lot of times your inside guys, if they can get pushed straight back, it forces a quarterback to go from sideline to sideline. And when that happens, your faster guys are usually your defensive ends, and that's where those guys can begin to make plays, or you force the quarterback to throw the ball away. And that's what we weren't doing. They were able to push us out of the middle, and he was able to step up and make some of those throws. And
obviously you might have a different opinion than what I was able to witness on the screen. That was about 2 inches by 2 inches, but we could still watch it. For a first game, it sure was pretty clean. The penalties were pretty limited. I don't remember one penalty being questionable or such that it had any kind of impact on the game. Again, that has to be encouraging from your point of view. Two of the 6 you guys had were the kicks out of bounds. So that's very correctable. But again, I mean,
and one was a delay of game.
And the delay, yeah. So 10 penalties, and 3 of those being very. I mean, you can work those out. That has to be a good foundation. And a chance that this game was so competitive, and for the referees not to feel like they had to be a part of it had to be a good sign too.
It was. I thought they did a great job of managing the game and letting the guys play. There were things that I think that they did a very good job of letting go and letting the guys play and putting it in the hands of the players. And I thought it was an excellent called game. I thought that both teams were very sharp in what they did, and there's a reason why there weren't a lot of penalties. Both teams, I thought, came out and executed very well and did what they were taught to do. And for them, they had no penalties in the second half. And that says a lot for their football team to not have any penalties. And we had, I think, a kick out of bounds, a delay of game, and two illegal procedure calls in the second half, and other than that, we were pretty good. And so I think it was a very good football game to watch. If you were there, it was a good game, even though we came out on the losing end. It was an exciting game. It was a well-played game. There was a lot of intensity in the game, a lot of hitting, a lot of people flying around. And I think it was 2 football teams that were in very good shape.
All right, Coach, it's halftime for tonight's show here on a Labor Day Monday at the Holiday Inn on West Hill Avenue. Again, a great setup if you have a chance to come out and spend some time with us either for the rest of the night tonight or as we go forward in the season. A great setup, a great buffet that they have laid out, wonderful staff taking care of everybody, and, of course, always a wonderful audience and wonderful people here cheering us on. But we'll take our second break here. When we come back, we'll talk more about Valdosta State football and heading towards our first home game.
We'll be back with more from the David Dean Coaches Show, live from the Holiday Inn and Conference Center. Thanks to our presenting sponsors, Southeastern Federal Credit Union. Also thanks to Girard & Jewelers, Budweiser, KFC, Smitty's, Valdosta Insurance Services, Blanton & Griffin Insurance, and Valdosta Lighting. We'll be back with more on Rock 108.
When practically every bank in town is taking away free checking, Southeastern Federal Credit Union says no. Southeastern Federal Credit Union's no-charge checking gives you no monthly service charge, no per-check charge, no-charge Visa check card, no-charge ATMs from Southeastern no matter where you use the card, no-charge POS transactions, no-charge internet banking, no charges whatsoever.
There's a natural order to football tailgating. You can't invite your friends until you ignite the football rivalries. That's why football tailgating starts with an ice-cold Bud Light Lime. It's the superior drinkability of Bud Light with a splash of 100% natural lime flavor. So go ahead and party it up right after you raise it up. Only the seasons change. Tastes don't. Look for a Bud Light Lime and find your summer state of mind anytime. It's in the Lime. Anheuser-Busch Bud Light Lime-flavored beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
Valdosta Lighting Center, located at 418 Northside Drive, has been serving homeowners and businesses in Valdosta and the surrounding areas since 1974. They have a 14,000 square foot facility and offer the finest lighting with over 200 residential, commercial, and industrial lines to choose from. Valdosta Lighting Center's staff has over 125 years combined experience. They offer scheduled in-house or on-site consultations as well as after-hours appointments for your convenience. Call Valdosta Lighting Center at 247-1526 or visit them online at valdostalighting.com.
Oh, getting killed out there, Coach.
Get it together, Kowalski.
Are you eating? New KFC Chicken Littles. Halftime snack.
Give me that. Oh. Wow. Now listen up, kid. This is a little game.
Yeah?
So make some little plays, some little hits. Show them you belong in the little time.
Yeah!
Go little, or go home.
Yeah!
Little is the new big. New KFC Chicken Littles. Get big taste for a little price. Just $1.29.
Limited time offer. Participating KFC restaurants. Prices may vary. Tax extra.
Hey Titletown, high school football season is here, and the best way to get plugged into all the latest real-time scores is the Southeastern Federal Credit Union High School Scoreboard on ValdostAtoday.com. It's the preeminent source for high school scores in South Georgia. Plus, you can listen to games with our live stream and even get updates on major plays. You're in the game with the most up-to-date high school scoreboard in the South. The Southeastern Federal Credit Union High School Scoreboard online at ValdostAtoday.com.
Blazer football talk. It's the David Dean Coaches Show on Rock 108.
Welcome back to the David Dean Coaches Show, live from the Holiday Inn and Conference Center. Thanks to our presenting sponsor, Southeastern Federal Credit Union. Also thanks to KFC, Girard & Jewelers, Budweiser, Smitty's, Valdosta Insurance Services, Blanton & Griffin Insurance, and Valdosta Lighting. Now let's go back to David Schmidt and head coach David Dean.
Very, very big undertaking to travel that far right off the bat. I'm sure there was a lot of people that were helping out in that situation, and tell us a little bit about how well all that went, aside from the few hours that.
Yeah, it was a good trip. I thought the flight that from Valdosta to Saginaw was very smooth. It's probably the smoothest landing that I've ever been a part of. If you did not know we were on the ground, if you didn't see the runway over there, you'd have never known we were on the ground. That's how smooth it was. And it was great weather. When we got there, it was a huge, huge, huge difference in temperature. Obviously, there was no humidity up there, but it was probably in the mid-70s with a pretty strong wind blowing. And that night, it was perfect weather for football. Then the next day, I guess I would venture to guess that it was probably in the upper 60s during game time. A lot of our coaches were wearing jackets, and it was really a good night for football, and it was good weather. And then we had a good flight coming back. We made it through the checkpoint Charlie, getting on the plane very good, and then we landed about 2:30, I guess, and by the time we had unloaded the plane and put it all back into our equipment truck and loaded up the buses to head home, we probably all got home about 3:15, 3:30, somewhere around there.
You and I were talking at the Meet the Blazers toward the end about how the weather's been really nice up there. At some point during practice, someone had seen how warm it was here and how nice it was there, and I mentioned about Indian summers creeping up, and the sad thing was, a few days leading up to that game, it had gotten into the upper 80s, and there was some humidity there,
right.
And then it's like the heavens opened up and said, well, but we're going to put that aside for now.
I wish it would have been. I think our guys would have handled that a whole lot better, being used to it, and I'd still love to get those guys down here and play. I don't think they're going to do that. I don't think they're going to return the favor. But it is what it is. You can't ever bank on what the weather's going to be like. You never know if it's going to rain, be windy. You just don't ever know. You just got to go out and play and execute.
So what led to that game? How does that come about, to you guys agreeing to make that trip?
Well, we had no obviously with the Arkansas schools leaving, we're having a very difficult time finding teams to play us. And Saginaw Valley and Valdosta State both had common open dates. So we made an agreement to play each other. Saginaw had a game. We already had 5 home games. They had 1 less home game. So they were really trying to persuade us to come up there to play, and for obvious reasons. But they offered to take care of all of our hotel rooms for all of our travel party if we would go up there to play, which would give them that fifth or sixth, whatever it is, home game that they needed. So we agreed to go up there and play.
So, and again, but you'd like to kind of have the chance to do a home and home, but it doesn't always work out that conveniently.
No, it doesn't. And, this was a one-year thing. And, we're going to try, and we'll go back and try it again. And hopefully we'll have a common date and we can bring them down here and get them in South Georgia. I know he was very excited. Their head coach was very excited that we came up there to play. He said their fans were really excited about somebody from the Gulf South Conference coming up to play and it being Valdosta State. And he was really excited about that. And the first thing he mentioned to me was the weather. He said, can you believe this weather? Y'all probably aren't used to this weather. And I said, no, we're not. So you could tell he was kind of happy about all that. And
again, you could tell from the fans, they have some good teams in that conference, but to be able to see the type of football that is played down in the South, I think they were really excited, and I think they got a sense that they were playing a different type of team.
Well, I don't think there's any question about that. And, they have a very good league there. Wayne State, Grand Valley, and Saginaw Valley are the three best teams in that conference year in and year out. And they feel like us, North Alabama, Delta State, and West Alabama all have good quality programs. And for us to be able to go up there and play, I think they were very excited about it.
All right, well, so on to next week. And next week brings with us our first home game at Bazemore Hyder Stadium here in Valdosta, 7 o'clock kickoff. So hopefully we'll have some nice evening weather as well. We're playing a Fort Valley State team that really impressed a lot of people, and I'm sure it definitely added to your lack of comfort this holiday weekend. But pulling off a 31-23 win at Delta State.
Right.
Delta State playing at home with a brand-new coach, trying to get their new tradition set off right. But Fort Valley came in, as you mentioned, 22 points in the fourth quarter, down 23-9 leading up to that point. And although it's not the same group of people, Delta State kind of had to feel like we felt that game in 2007 where the momentum just kind of took off and there was no stopping them.
Yeah, it was incredible when you watch that on film, which that's the film that we've been breaking down today and evaluating. It turned like that on Delta State, and all of a sudden Fort Valley's intensity on defense increased, and they started hitting some passes and making some big runs, and I think it kind of shocked Delta State. And really it was 24-23, and the last touchdown that Fort Valley had, Delta State let them score to try to get the ball back to score and go for two to time. And that was the only way that they felt like they could do it. And you could see it when they broke through. Everybody on Delta just kind of all stood by and let him run into the end zone about 20 yards. So, they did make a great comeback and make it to 24-23, but the intensity of their defense and what they do defensively causes you a lot of problems. It's kind of a defense that's a feast or famine. They're going to make a lot of big plays in the backfield, but then they're going to give up some big plays. But what Delta State didn't do that they did in the first half was the big plays. Fort Valley just completely took away the big plays that Delta had.
And as far as the Gulf South Conference goes, it was a pretty successful weekend for everybody else. No really big matchups, so you kind of expected a lot of, they weren't playing the competition. But one game that did kind of catch by surprise was North Alabama with a home win, 31-30 over Miles, and that came down to a 2-point conversion. Miles scored with 16 seconds left, actually went for the 2-point conversion. Their head coach, Reginald Ruffin, was a player back in the glory years of North Alabama, and said he thought considered Bobby Wallace a father figure. Mm-hmm. But he definitely he showed a lot of guts there, and he said, you know what, I'm not going for the tie, I'm going for the win, and we're walking out of here with the win. And unfortunately, they came just a little bit short. So a tough game for North Alabama.
Yeah, it was. Miles is a good football team, a much improved football team. They took West Georgia last year down to the wire and really had a chance to beat West Georgia, and West Georgia pulled it off and ended up winning. But that was another one of those games that I think it was 24-7 at one time, and Miles just slowly came back and ended up scoring late and went for two. And Reginald Ruffin did play for Coach Wallace, so I know that that would have been a very big win for him, and that's probably why he did it. It was going to be He probably felt like going into overtime they had all of the momentum at that time, and so instead of going into overtime and putting it in the hands of an exchange of possessions, let's just go ahead and try and win it right here.
Have you ever been in that game yet where you were going against, a former player or someone that really meant a lot to you professionally or personally that, leading up to the game, that not that it took away from the game planning, obviously, but it had that emotional component to it?
Yeah. There was, when I was at West Georgia, I came down here to Valdosta, Georgia, and played some guys that I was coached with at one time, Hal Mummy, right. Mike Leach, and we were able to whip those guys fanny a little bit a couple of times. That was big. It was big for me in the sense that a lot of those guys that were playing, the Robert Williams, the Calvin Walkers, Chris Hatchers, Chris Dupree, all those guys were all recruited, through the time that I was there, and then to go back and play them again, that was bittersweet to beat those guys. But any time that you coach against somebody or you're coaching against a player that you recruited, it's always very difficult when you see them after the game if you have beaten them. But it's going to happen. It's part of the game. I've never coached against anybody that coached me at one time. We did try to set up a game with Georgia State at one time, and my college coach was Coach Curry, and obviously he's the head coach at Georgia State. So we tried to work that out, but they decided against playing us, and so that's really the only one. So I've coached with peers or coached against peers before, but nobody that ever coached me at one point.
And I'm sure it's one of those things, too, that it's kind of romantic to think about it leading to it, maybe after the fact, but it probably takes all of, a half of a second to get over it. To me, I would equate it to, if you were ever playing against a brother. If you were on the same team, great, and you could. But if you ever played against him, well, he's on the other team, and I'm trying to win. I don't care who's over there.
Exactly right. And then I turned around and did the same thing when I came back to Valdosta State. All of those guys at West Georgia, gosh, I don't know. I would bet 50% of those guys on that West Georgia team I recruited at that time, and that was very difficult. When you go from being the offensive coordinator and leading those guys for 2 or 3 years, and then now you're coaching against them, and at that time they were undefeated. We had one loss to Delta State, and we go to Carrollton and we beat them that night, and that was their first loss, and they gave us a conference championship. So, that's another one that you're really excited about playing, but when it's all said and done, you go over and you shake those guys' hands. It is kind of bittersweet because you've been in a lot of wars with them.
And I'm sure most of them are respectful, but every once in a while a little you jerk kind of slip out and say, why'd you have to leave us and steal all the secrets? And
Well, no, the secrets, no, but, both places that I've been and gone back, you had a lot of guys that say, hey, wish you wouldn't have left, we miss you. And, of course, you tell them, boy, I miss you guys. I really miss coaching you, and, good luck to you, and so forth and so on. And that's the tough part of this business, and it's always going to be that way when you leave a school and go somewhere else, and then you have to end up playing those guys.
All right, Coach, we'll take our final break. When we come back, we'll, again, take a closer look at what's ahead of us Saturday night at 7 o'clock, first home game against Fort Valley.
We'll be back with more from the David Dean Coaches Show, live from the Holiday Inn and Conference Center. Thanks to our presenting sponsor, Southeastern Federal Credit Union. Also thanks to Girard & Jewelers, Budweiser, KFC, Smitty's, Valdosta Insurance Services, Blanton & Griffin Insurance, and Valdosta Lighting. We'll be back with more on Rock 108.
When practically every bank in town is taking away free checking, Southeastern Federal Credit Union says no. Southeastern Federal Credit Union's no-charge checking gives you no monthly service charge, no per-check charge, no-charge Visa check card, no-charge ATMs from Southeastern no matter where you use the card, no-charge POS transactions, no-charge internet banking, no charges whatsoever.
Do you have enough coverage? Don't wait to find out the insurance you purchased online or from an 800 number gave you a discount on the wrong coverage. Talk to your neighborhood independent auto owner's agent today about a policy that fits your needs and budget. Visit today and form a valued relationship that won't let you down in a time of need. For all your insurance needs, call Valdosta Insurance Services at 242-4560 or visit them online at valdostainsurance.com.
Accuracy, reliability, perfection. Exacting standards and passionate faithfulness are at the core of the legendary Tag Heuer watch collection. These standards beat strong in the hearts of every football player and die-hard fan. Champions of accuracy, champions of quality. Tag Heuer's and Girard & Jewelers' winning team can't be beat. Girard & Jewelers, our area's exclusive dealer of Tag Heuer timepieces, proudly supports Coach David Dean and the Valdosta State Blazers. See the rebirth of an icon, the Tag Heuer Link Series, exclusively available at Girard & Jewelers.
There's a natural order to football tailgating. You can't invite your friends until you ignite the football rivalries. That's why football tailgating starts with an ice-cold Bud Light Lime. It's the superior drinkability of Bud Light with a splash of 100% natural lime flavor. So go ahead and party it up right after you raise it up. Only the seasons change. Tastes don't. Look for a Bud Light Lime and find your summer state of mind anytime. It's in the Lime. Anheuser-Busch Bud Light Lime flavored beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
Blazer football talk. It's the David Dean Coaches Show on Rock 108.
Welcome back to the David Dean Coaches Show, live from the Holiday Inn and Conference Center. Thanks to our presenting sponsors, Southeastern Federal Credit Union. Also thanks to Girard & Jewelers, Budweiser, KFC, Smitty's, Valdosta Insurance Services, Blanton & Griffin Insurance, and Valdosta Lighting. Now let's go back to David Schmidt and head coach David Dean.
All right, Coach, after a tough loss, it has to at least be great to know you're coming home, get to play the first home game. So regardless of, what focus the players had, they really have to be excited about getting a chance. They've played on the field a few times for some of the scrimmage in the spring game, and now they get to suit up and play a real game in front of the big crowd. So I guess that makes it hopefully a little bit easier to get them motivated and focused again on the task at hand. Plus, like you said, you still have the same goals as far as winning the conference.
Well, all of that's still in front of us, but the big thing is we're going to be playing against a lot of guys that our kids either played in high school with or against. Fort Valley's roster is loaded with a lot of Georgia kids, so that's going to be big. That'll create some excitement. They're going to bring a huge crowd. I know they will. They're going to bring their band. So we're going to have two great bands there battling it out, and their fans will be loud, and hopefully we'll have some folks that'll come to the game and watch these kids and will be loud and match their noise level. But I think when our kids come out of that locker room and come through the band and the fight song plays, I really think that's when the adrenaline is really going to hit, and they're going to see that. And when they walk down that Blazer walk, I think it's all going to kind of hit them. Hey, we're at home, and it's time to go back to work. And I think they're really excited about having an opportunity to finally play in Baysmore-Hyder Stadium.
And I think this is a case, too, where, as a football fan and a fan of Georgia football in the Southeast, the fact that Fort Valley is willing to take on this game and to play you at home. I think we mentioned a few years ago when Donald Pittman took over, he said it was his goal he wanted to see how good his team was by playing the Valdosta States, and he specifically said Valdosta State,
right,
because that's the way he can measure his program. What good is it to kind of work your way through teams that aren't going to help you measure? And he wanted to face the best that there is, and so that in fact you have this interstate rivalry game, and you have all the local products that are facing off each other, and it has to be good for a coach too to know that people are see you as a measuring stick, and that you're the type of team that they're trying to become.
I agree with you, and it makes a lot of sense for us to play Albany State, Fort Valley, even Clark, Morehouse, even though they're in a different conference. Because they're all in the state of Georgia, let's all play each other. It makes sense. From a budget standpoint, where you don't have to go to Michigan and play, we can go to Atlanta. They can come down here. Fans can travel up and down 75 or to 20, whatever. And, I'm still fighting for that deal that we could get into the Georgia Dome, and maybe us, West Georgia, and West Alabama, so to speak, would play an Albany, Fort Valley, and Morehouse, in a triple header, kind of like what we're doing next week with Angelo State in Cowboy Stadium, and do that. And I think that, the higher B's won't listen to me, but I think that they'll end up getting a lot of money because all of those teams would travel to the Georgia Dome to watch that triple header. And, I keep pushing for it, but it's just falling on deaf ears. And there's a lot of coaches in this Gulf South Conference that would stand in line to go there and play and have an opportunity to do that. And, you do a Gulf South Conference SIAC challenge matchup for a day.
And again, that has to be frustrating when you hear lip service to keeping costs down and being efficient with your money. And when you have a plan again, not only is it efficient with your money, but it's a great opportunity to raise more money. And yet somehow that seems to not make sense to the people that can make decisions.
No, it doesn't. And I'm not pointing fingers at anybody, because I'm sure there's a whole lot of there's a whole lot of things that are involved in it that I don't know about. And maybe they don't want to do it. Maybe the cost is too high. I don't know, but I've heard what it costs to rent the Georgia Dome for the day. They would make that up very, very easy.
And so now Fort Valley, what do we have ahead of us as far as the matchups and the type of offense, defense they're running?
Well, defensively, like I said, they're a feast or famine. They're going to put basically 11 guys are going to be 6 yards from the football. They're going to walk up in our face and press us man coverage. They're going to bring blitzes from everywhere. They just try to create a lot of pressure. They run to the football very well. They got big defensive linemen. The linebackers are very athletic. Their corners are very good. Offensively, the head coach is the old offensive coordinator at Albany State when they were very successful offensively in the 2004, 5, 6 that year. And they've got a quarterback that transferred in from Ohio State that was a state champion at Peach County. He's got one of his receivers that transferred from Auburn. So they've got two very good, talented players over there. They've got two outstanding running backs. They've got a good offensive line. They got a very good scheme, and they're gonna go into some I formation, and then they're gonna go into some spread, and they're gonna balance up and mix you up and keep you on your toes as far as things that they're doing. The big thing for us is containing Antonio Hitton, who is their quarterback. He is an outstanding athlete, but he's probably going to have, I would hope, the strongest arm that we're going to face all year long. This guy can zip it around. I mean, he really can throw it. So we're going to have to be very good in the secondary and make breaks and cover those guys up and force him to, have to throw over some people and take some of the zip off of those balls.
And as far as health on our end, I mean, obviously Caden, and that's up in the air right now. But as far as the rest of the team, do they come through pretty well? Or?
Well, we got beat up pretty good. I don't think Caden's going to be able to play this week. We'll know more tomorrow. He's going to see the doctor. Like I said, he got a little bit better today. Chaz Matthews separated his shoulder also. He's probably out for this game. We had two kids that hurt their ankle. Ryan Smith, which I think he's got a better chance of playing. Manny Evans, one of our corners, is probably not going to play. I don't think his ankle is going to be well enough to play. Tevin Davis, who was probably our best pass rusher the other night, he took a shot in the quad late in the game, and he was very sore. I think he'll be able to work through that. But other than that, just a lot of bumps and bruises and hurt egos right now. So we got to get back out on the field and start preparing and working. And whoever it is that we line up with, they got to go out and they got to make plays and execute.
And the Blazer Walk, you mentioned it already, but the details, do you know the details leading up to it?
No, I don't. I think we get there an hour and a half before the game, so that'll be 5:30, somewhere around in there. We'll come down the same way. I don't know what the name of that street is, but we'll let off up there at the Board of Education and walk down to the gate. But we'll probably get there roughly around 5:30 or so.
And have you talked to the players since you got back and unloaded everything? So where do you think they are right now with state of mind and, again, balancing that excitement with the home game and getting over the
obviously they were very disappointed because, like I said, they felt like they had a good football team. And I think they felt like they should have won that game if you go back and look at it. And you kind of look at it and go, how in the world did this happen? So they were a little bit in shock. They were down. We did not see them today. Today is their NCAA day off, so we saw them yesterday and then watched film, and then they did a weight workout to kind of knock some of the soreness out. Have seen a few of them have come into the office today to watch film, and I think they're just excited to get back and get going again. Obviously, the Fort Valley, this is a good time to play them because of the excitement of what they bring to the stadium. So of all the opponents that we could play right now, Fort Valley would probably be a very good choice for us.
And this year, the home games, the only day game is going to be the homecoming game. Is that something you're excited about, getting to play more at night, or does it really matter? I know you mentioned before, the later the game, the harder it is to keep the team focused for that day. But
well, I mean, me personally, I like afternoon games because I like to get up, get into the routine, play the game, and then you have the rest of the day off. For us as coaches, we don't have a lot of time off. And for us to sit around all day, wait for a game, when you finish the game, it's by the time you get through doing interview with this guy, and this guy, you're getting home at 12 o'clock or so. And then for me, I've got to get up at 5:30 and go do the TV show and do our highlight show, and then our other coaches will come in about 8 o'clock, and they'll watch the film and grade the film and do all that, and then we meet in the afternoon before our players come in, and we actually watch it as an individual position, then we watch it as an offensive and defensive unit, and then we watch it with our players. So we see that game 3 times. So there's really not a lot of downtime, but when you have that afternoon game and it finishes, you got the rest of the night to kind of relax a little bit. And that's why I like the afternoon games. I know it's hot, but when you play in South Georgia, that's an advantage.
Sure.
For Saginaw Valley to have to come down here and play last Saturday at 1 o'clock, that would have been a huge advantage for us.
Yeah. And we can only hope that again, maybe they'll step up and return the favor. And in the show on a good note for Valdosta State football, if people have been keeping up with it, as far as today, Larry Dean has made the squad for the Minnesota Vikings for a second consecutive year. He is a 2-year veteran, will be a 2-year veteran. He's an integral part of a lot of their special teams. The last game that they played, my brother lives in Minnesota, so he was able to watch it, and he mentioned that they have their GM or assistant GM come on during the game sometime and talk about, especially leading that last game leading up to roster cuts, and Larry's name came up again, as it did a lot last year, and he mentioned, just what an incredible kid he was, what a hard worker he was, and then he had a lot, and I don't know the details of specifically what he said, but this GM, because they had Artie Ulmer play for Minnesota as well, just how familiar he was with Valdosta State football and the quality of player that they were able to get from down here, and that they know that this is a really good place for football, not just the Gulf South Conference, but Valdosta State. And as a coach that's, trying to mold these young men to be professionals in whatever it is that they do, that's got to be exciting to know that you're on the radar.
But it is, and it helps our players. It gets them excited when they go out there and they see the Cowboys and the Jets and we've had the Cowboys, the Jets, the Broncos, the Giants, the Bears, the Saints. I can't think of all of them that have been there, but we've probably had 10 or 11 NFL teams that have already come through our camp and looked at our players, and that is exciting. It's a good reputation to have. It does good when you start to see these guys make it in the NFL, and hopefully one day Larry Dean will be starting and he'll sit up there and he won't say Tifton, Georgia. He'll say Valdosta State University, or the Valdosta State.
Yeah, when they do the announcements
that's
and do
right.
the thing. Yeah, they have the
So
show.
hopefully, that's always something that can be very exciting for us.
I've been on the lookout and trying to see if they, with him being a backup special teams, to make his first football card, because they always do put the college on the back, so it's always good to get the Valdosta State. I haven't seen anything for him to be on that, but again, it was exciting, and I know that you got to be proud to have all your players, again, no matter what they do professionally, but to have Larry in there working hard and having the reputation for being the quality kid that he is.
Well, and I'll tell you something else that he did. He came by this summer and he brought me a little flyer that he was doing up in Tifton, and he was doing a back-to-school party, so to speak, and he was giving all the kids, the underprivileged kids in the Tifton area, a book bag with school supplies. And they were also giving away, I think, 2 or 3 bikes and stereos and different things like that. And he set all that up for those underprivileged kids in Valdosta, in Tifton, Georgia, his hometown. So, that I thought that was something that was really special. And for him, that's kind of the way he thinks. He kind of grew up in that environment, so he's going to give back to that environment. All right, Coach. Blazer Walk, 5:30. Saturday night, the kickoff is at 7 o'clock against Fort Valley State at Bazemore Hyder Stadium. I don't know why I always have trouble with that name, but growing up it was always the one name. But anyway, first home game, and again, all the goals are still there. The Gulf South Conference Championship still in our sights. We'll look forward to it. Look for a kickoff. I hope everybody can make it and cheer the Blazers on to their first victory of the 2012 season.
This has been a special presentation of the David Dean Coaches Show, live from the Holiday Inn and Conference Center. Thanks again to our presenting sponsor, Southeastern Federal Credit Union. Also thanks to Smitty's, Valdosta Insurance Services, Blanton & Griffin Insurance, Valdosta Lighting, Girardin Jewelers, Budweiser, and KFC. This has been a special presentation on Rock 108.
Let's begin.
WWRQ Valdosta. Online at myrock108.com.
Through a computer network called Internet.
This is Rock 108.
Mark. 5-minute stations, 5 minutes until this broadcast on the Bulldog Radio Network from IMG. Your next time cue will come at 4 minutes until airtime.
Push me up against the wall, young tough girl in a push-up